and welcome to another very exciting session on Unacademy CAT-alyst. In today's session, we are going to talk about how to build your resume and how to work on your profile. Remember, the CAT results are only 3 weeks away. I must say 3 weeks away. And these last few days before your results, it is essential that you get your homework done. When I say homework, you must be ready with your resume. You must be working on your profile. And in today's class, I'm going to talk about things which you can do in the next 30 days. I'm not going to tell you anything which will take a long time to improve because with just few days left for the interview, I understand very clearly, right, that it is essential that I tell you things and tips which probably are fast and which probably can be incorporated within a very short period of time. Gonna be a very interesting class. Let's get started straight away on this very important topic, resume writing and profile building for your MBA interviews. Let's get started. So this is me, Parikshit Saikia, your educator on Unacademy with amongst the highest live class ratings thanks to my learners. New batches are starting on Unacademy in the next few days. 18th and the 22nd of December, we have batches starting for CAT 2022 and OMAT 2022 along with SNAP. Now, if you are interested to enroll for any of these batches, remember you got to take the plus subscription. And if you do so, and if you need discounts, use the code which is there on your screen, Parikshit Live. If you use the code Parikshit Live, you will get maximum discounts and B, you will also get free mentorship from my side. Yeah, you heard it correct. Free mentorship and that's applicable till your CAT and that's applicable only and only on my code Parikshit Live. Free mentorship from my side. Let's get started with today's session. Okay, let's pull up the screen. Okay, so resume writing and profile building. Two parts to the discussion today. Let's write it down. Resume writing, okay, and profile building. That's something I think is the most important aspect in this festive season, right? While everyone else enjoys, you might as well as work on your profile because at the end of the day, if your dream is to get into IIM Ahmedabad, remember clearing the CAT is just half the task done. The remaining 50% is to make sure that you clear the interviews. And almost every B school in India, right, will have an interview round before they give you the final offer letter. Okay. Now, first, I'm going to talk about how to build your profile, how to work on your profile, and let's talk only about things which can be done in the next few days. Fine? Okay. I think the first thing that must appear on your resume, and let's say for some of you, the resume might be very weak. For others who have a very strong resume, you have always had been the topper of your class. You have a lot of extracurricular achievements. You have published international or national papers. You might might not work on your profile as of now because it's already good. But for the majority of the students, your profile consideration is something that you need to worry about. And I think at this stage, something that you can definitely do is do some certifications. Do some certifications, okay? Certifications or learning. Some certifications or learning. There are a lot of certifications available for free, okay? Or if no certification, I think it's still fine if you go ahead and do some learning. When I say learning, what kind of learning can you do in 1 month time? Probably some examples could be, let's take some examples. Examples could be Excel. Remember, Microsoft Excel is one of the most important tools for a manager. If you can demonstrate that you already have the proficiency, okay, and you are well versed in Excel, and when I say Excel, it's just not the basic formulas in Excel, probably doing some coding, VBA macros, probably knowing some very frequently used tools in Excel, right? I think this is something that you can easily learn. And if you look at YouTube, there are a lot of videos available for free and you can master, I won't say master, but at least learn Excel to an extent such that you can put it on your resume and say that, you know what, you know Excel well. That could be a topic to talk about, especially if at this stage you do not have too many things to put on your resume. So Microsoft Excel could be one thing. Then you can also have probably other tools like data analysis tools. Data analysis tools. Now, some data analysis tools are not very difficult to learn. As an example, let's say Tableau. Tableau. So, as a manager, every point of time, probably every day, you'd have a lot of raw data. And as a manager, your job is to derive meaningful information out of the data. So there are a lot of data analytics tool available in the market today, which helps managers to make decisions, or in other words, to make meaningful information, to derive meaningful information out of the raw data. So I think Tableau is something that you can again learn. You either will get it in YouTube, or there are some courses which are free on Udemy, right? So you can search even there and learn some course and do some courses on Tableau. Now, one thing students often ask is, sir, do I necessarily need to have a certification if I do a course? Now, ideally, the best possible scenario is, it is always better if you go for a certification. It is always better if you can get a certification at the end of the course. But even then, let's say you do not get a certification at the end of the course, there is no certification. It should not be a problem. You can still write down, you know what? You can still write down did courses on Udemy on Tableau. Moment you mention Tableau, what happens is that the examiner has a new area to ask questions from. Tableau is something probably not too many students will write in an interview. And when a few students do write Tableau, chances are that questions will be asked from these areas, right? So again, I'm saying these are topics which can be done within few days. I mean, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 1 month, you can master Excel and probably data analytic tool like Tableau, data analysis tool like Tableau. Correct? For others, what else can you do? What else can you do? I would say doing anything else, right? I mean, at this stage, apart from, let's say, something very easy. I mean, you cannot do something which is very tough, right? You cannot be able to do, because you can't finish it before your interview. So Excel and data analysis tools are two things I can definitely think of, right? Which you can easily learn in a short span of time. Something else, for those of you who know basic coding, if you know basic coding, then there are other languages like R, Python as well, which you might wish to learn, okay? At least get started. And if you get started, you can put it in your resume that undergoing training on Python. Moment you put the English word undergoing, right? It clearly tells the interview panel that this is something you are doing. You have not mastered it, but you are learning it. And he also expects that you will not know all questions, but probably the basics of of these topics you will know. So R and Python is again something that you can definitely work on in the next few days till your interview. Fine. So first thing is, do some certifications or learning. Second, what else can you do? What else can you do? Second is, get involved with an NGO. Get involved, okay, with an NGO. With an NGO. I think this is something again which could be possible for some of you. Could be possible for some of you, right? Probably the coronavirus is there at this time. There are so many people who are in need of probably the basic necessities of life. You might wish to get involved with an NGO, because if you do so, you know what? You can speak about that in an interview. You can speak about that in an interview. Let's say you do not get a chance to work with an NGO. What you can do? Simple things. You probably can go to a traffic signal and distribute a few packets of mineral water bottles. A few packets of mineral water bottles. Now, why do I say so? I don't know how many of you know this, but have you heard the movie? Have you heard the name of the movie? Drishyam. I don't know if I'm spelling it correct. Have you heard the name of the movie, Hindi movie, Drishyam? You know what? If you do something, as an example, let's say you go to a traffic signal and start distributing mineral water bottles to probably a few beggars or some people who are very poor who cannot afford it. You know what? You can tell that in an interview. You might not want to tell that I did it just for one day, but you can say that every weekend during the pandemic, I wanted to do something for the society. So for a very small thing that I do is I go to a traffic signal which is near my house, which is very crowded, and every Sunday I distribute water bottles. That gives me a sense of relief, that gives me a sense of happiness when I see a smile on the poor lady which is there on the streets and who cannot probably afford a bottle of water. Why is it important to actually do it? Because the person who actually takes your interview, right, is very smart. If you have not done it, actually, he might easily catch you and say that you are lying. And like the movie Drishyam, which says that if you experience something yourself, then it is always easy to answer questions rather than making up a false story. So I would say get involved with an NGO or probably do some social work such that you can at least write something on your resume and create a story. Okay, and create a story, probably, especially if your resume does not have too many stuffs. So I think this is something again very much doable in the next few days, such that you can put it on your resume. Third thing, third thing, hobby. It is very, very essential that all of you have a hobby. There must be some hobby. You know what? It is always easy to answer questions on topics that you are aware of. Let's say I start talking to you regarding, let's say, philosophy, regarding, let's say, nuclear physics. Most of you might not be able to understand why, because you are not comfortable with the topic, and you definitely do not want the interview panel to ask questions from areas which you are not comfortable with. On the contrary, if you have a hobby, it could be playing the guitar, it could be dancing, it could be painting, it could be reading books. It becomes very easy to answer questions. Remember, many a times the interview panel will ask you a lot of questions on your hobby. Could be just a many. Okay, what type of questions will the interview panel ask? Example of questions. Let's say, you know what, your hobby, for example, your hobby is, let's say, painting. Your hobby is, let's say, painting. Okay. Or for that matter, let's say your hobby is cooking. Your hobby is cooking. Okay. Think of the kind of questions that can be asked in the interview if you tell them these answers. No one is going to select you in IIM Ahmedabad just because you mentioned painting. But if you are able to answer the questions which revolve around painting, probably you will crack the interview. Now, what kind of questions could be asked? Questions could be like, who name five famous painters in India? Name five famous painters in India. Okay. And moment you tell them, they might ask you what is their specific area or what are they famous at? What kind of drawings do they do? Or they might ask you that if you love painting, what is the difference between a primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors? Remember the triangle where you have primary, secondary, and tertiary colors? They might start asking you questions on that. They might ask you, which pencil do you use to draw figures? And if you tell them you would draw, you probably use a HB pencil. HB, I'm just giving a random example. HB5 pencil, they might start asking you what is the meaning or what is the significance of the digit 5. These answers, if you're able to give the minute details, you know what, that would actually show that you are very much inclined, I mean, right, inclined to your hobby, and probably you can spend 15-20 minutes of your interview on hobby. Let's say you talk about cooking. If you talk about cooking, again, no one is going to select you just because you mention cooking, but people are going to ask you questions. People are going to ask you questions like, how many calories, what calories, probably the interview panel might ask me that I'm 50 years old. How many calories should I consume per day? They might give you a simple example of, let's say, an egg. Okay. And they might ask you, oh, how many calories would one egg contain? So something similar to that, right? So be ready to answer questions. Do not mention anything as your hobby unless you actually do it, unless you actually are very much involved in it. Because if you mention something as your hobby and then it comes across that you're not very interested, you do not have too much knowledge about it, you know what? It would portray a very bad picture, and chances are that you might not be able to crack the interview. In case you don't have a hobby, in case you don't have a hobby, what I would suggest is at least try to read one or two novels before your interview. One or two novels before your interview. Correct? One or two novels. Definitely, when I say one or two novels, and probably for a budding manager who wants to get into IIM Ahmedabad, if you start reading books of Chetan Bhagat, then yeah, right. I mean, I don't have to tell, right? This is going live, but yeah, you have to read books of authors who are really good at the subject, probably some famous authors, not just anyone, right? And you read one or two of them. Definitely do not mention reading as your hobby. What you can rather tell them is, I don't have a hobby as such, but you know what? Of late, I have read two books, and you can tell them the two books which you have read, okay? And when you tell them about the two books, you can also tell them about the lessons, about the learnings that you had, okay, out of these two books, out of those two books. Correct? There must be some learning, there must be some change in your perspective because you read those two books. So please mention the learning, the perspective, the author's style of writing, right? These are the type of questions that are being asked in an interview if you tell them that reading is your hobby. And even if you don't have a hobby, I would say read one or two novels and tell the panel that you don't read much, but of late you have read two very interesting books. Another way to, I mean, this is could be another means, right, wherein you can talk about in an interview. Remember, the interview can go as long as 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and definitely you do not want the panel to ask you questions on areas which you are not comfortable with. I would rather have the panel talk about Excel, Microsoft Excel, or probably my hobbies, rather than make him ask questions, okay, from my academics. If you're super confident about your academics, go ahead. You can tell them that you have always been topper, and they might start asking you questions from your academics. But if you're not the kind of person who remembers a lot of what you have studied in your graduation, then try to distract the panel with other interesting topics. And many a times you never know, right? It might just work out, and your interview might be super awesome. Correct? Fine. What else can you do? What else can you do? What else can you do? If you already have a hobby, you know what? You definitely got to write down the questions, okay? That might be probable, that could be probable questions, and that might be asked in an interview. Correct? And I already gave you examples of painting and cooking, the type of questions that can be asked in the interview. Now, definitely, having said all of these, right, certifications, get involved in an NGO, hobby, this helps in building your profile. Helps in building your profile. With just 1 month left for the interviews to start, you probably cannot do too much. You probably cannot do too much. What else can you do? There are other things like, let's say, some relevant topics you might want to study. Example, marketing or finance topics. Marketing or finance topics. Let me give you an example of each. Let me give an example of each which you can mention during your interview. First, let me come to my favorite area, finance topics. You know what? You can do an analysis of a company. You can do an analysis, a quick analysis. I won't say a quick, give some time to it, analysis of a company. When I say analysis of a company, probably you look at their income statement, their balance sheets, their cash flow statements. How well has the company been doing over the last few years, sorry. And then in your resume, you might say that I have done analysis of a company XYZ using so and so metrics. So if you're able to do some analysis of a company, this could be another area, right, which you can put in your resume and which can easily be done within 30 days. Do not take too many companies. Do not take a sector which you don't understand. If you are taking a sector like, let's say, Bitcoin, and you don't understand much of Bitcoins and the technology behind Bitcoins, don't go for such companies. Go for companies which probably you can easily relate to, and even if they ask you questions, right, you might be able to use your common sense to answer questions. It might not be analysis of a company, it might even be analysis of an area or a topic. Analysis of a topic, right? Example, you know what? You can tell them that you have deep dive into the farm laws. So farm laws is something, a burning topic. It was recently repealed by the parliament, right? So you can in fact write in your resume that you have done a comparative analysis of the farm laws in India before these laws were actually brought in, and post this and post and the picture post when the laws were supposed to be implemented, right? So you can write all of these, but remember, when you write, be ready to answer questions on them. Again, I repeat, if your resume once, I mean, if you're thinking of what you will put in your resume, I have given you a lot of things. Marketing, for those of you who are interested in marketing, what can you put here? You can tell them that you have done a study, okay? You have done a study of, let's say, consumer perception, or probably brand building, okay? Brand building, how a brand is built from scratch, or how the perception of consumer changes, right? Depending on what is shown to them, and the depending on the product quality, right? So you can just mention about some marketing strategy, some recent ads. If you are creative, you can talk about some ads, right? So depending on your area of interest, you can go for these analysis of such companies or probably topics. For people who are interested in, let's say, operations, another thing people who are interested in operations can do, or even if you are not interested in operations, you can still go for some certifications like Six Sigma certifications. These are not very tough, and remember, can be done even if you put in some amount of effort. And remember, if you're able to put the effort, this is something you can put in black and white on your resume, and will ensure that your resume stands out, right, from the 240,000 odd candidates who are writing the CAT. So operations, you can put certifications like Six Sigma. So if you have not done, Google it out. How can you get the certification done, right, in the next few days? Remember, still we have 20 odd days left for your CAT results to come out. Once the results are out, you got to put in 100% of your time and effort on preparing for the interviews. You might not get time to do these certifications which I'm talking about. So the last week, right, probably when the entire world is celebrating, you might want to put in a few extra hours, go for these certifications, and before your results are out, make sure that you have these certifications so that you can put on your resume. Remember, you're putting a lot of effort to prepare for the CAT, and it's still, even if you get a 99 plus percentile, okay, or even if you get 90 percentile, you still have to clear one more hurdle, which is cracking the interview, right? If you have not done very well in the CAT, it is all the more important that your interview goes really, really well, so that you can, you can match with those students whose score is written in the written exam is a bit high, and you can actually match them. Remember, even 1 mark here and there can make a lot of difference. 1 mark more could mean IIM Shillong, and 1 mark less could mean just that you could not clear the cutoff, and it could be IIM Raipur or IIM Udaipur, right? So very, very important. So out of the 5 things, don't pick up all 5. Remember, all 5 is not possible with just 20 days left before the results. All 5 things that I've written on the board are not possible. Pick and choose 1 or 2. Probably getting involved with an NGO, or probably doing some certifications, or cultivating a hobby is something that you can do in the next few days, right? And it's essential that you get the job done. Fine? Okay. That was about profile building, some quick profile building. Why would I say quick? Because I told you things which you can actually improve in the next few days. The next part of my discussion would focus on how to build your resume. How to build your resume. Correct? Okay. Resume writing. Resume writing. Okay. Now, I know that most of you would pick up resumes from Google. The format of the resume you would pick up from Google, okay? But I would suggest, do not directly copy paste things from Google. Do not directly copy paste things from Google. It would not serve the purpose. It would not serve the purpose. Remember your resume. Do remember the intent. Why are you writing the resume? This is because you want to get into a B school, right? You want to get into a B school. So do not lose focus. Your resume is not to get a job. It is rather to get placed in a B school, and hence it is essential that you summarize the last 20-25 years of your life, okay, in that one page of your resume. One page. Remember, resumes are never ever meant to be long. It should be 1 or 2 pages, never more than that. If you have too many stuff, just cut out your stuff, right? Just mention and highlight those important points which you probably would want the panel to go through. If your resume is long, 4 or 5 pages, it only shows that you have not done your homework properly and you have mentioned things without putting in a proper thought. Correct? On the contrary, if you do not have stuff to write, probably your resume could be just half a page. That also is not good. It should be minimum 1 page and maximum 2 pages. Correct? Why? Remember the interview panel. He is already going through the resumes of probably thousands of students who have got calls from these schools. He would definitely not want to go through another 5 pages of your resume, because for him, you are just one among the many thousands who, through, for whom he is the interview panel. So 1 2 pages max, not more than that. Now, before I go to the contents of the resume, it is very, very essential that you are grammatically correct. There cannot be any grammar mistake in your resume. You should be grammatically correct, okay? Then, second thing is you should be able to verify. You should be able to verify whatever is mentioned in your resume. If in your resume you write that in your class 12 you have got 60% in your board's examination, right? But on the contrary, you know what? Your actual percentage is 59.1 percentage. Remember, that can lead to an elimination. You can in no way round off 59.1 and say it's 60%. Should you clear the interview and should you get an offer letter from an IIM, everything that you have mentioned in your resume would be verified, and at no stage should you fail that verification. If at any stage you fail in the verification, it might lead to a cancellation of your candidature. So be very particular of the numbers that you put in your resume. Do not mention, do not, I repeat, do not, okay, what do not mention? Best subjects. I see people who write best 4 out of 5. Best 4 out of 5. I have never understood this concept. There is no concept wherein you can choose 4 subjects out of the 5 in your graduation or your 10 or your 12. In all cases, you must mention and aggregate and sum up all subjects which are there in your mark sheet. So basically, you should be able to verify whatever is mentioned in the resume. Okay. And when will the verification happen? Post the interview, should you crack the interview and should you get an offer letter. Okay. So whatever you write is subject to verification. Third, third, be very particular, okay, about font and alignment. Font and alignment. Remember, you might not be very good at it. You might not be very good in alignments and font, right? There might be times when your bullet is out here and the second bullet could be just out here. This is definitely not permissible, right? Remember, you are appearing for interview to one of the top B schools in the country. Alignment font should be perfect, right? There should not be any error in this. Now, these are all the cosmetic things that I'm telling you at the start before I actually get into the content of what you need to put in your resume. Okay, having said that, now let's understand what I would want you to put in your resume. What I would want you to put in your resume. Okay, there are many formats available, but I would suggest the best format, okay, for a person, for a student who aspires to go into the B school, will be the one which I would tell you here. Okay, first is objective. Objective. Now, an objective should not be something which you would copy paste from Google. Your objective, okay, specifically, if you copy paste from Google, the problem is another person might have done the same thing. And during the same day, if two persons have exactly the same objective, it will be very clear to the interview panel that this is something that you have copy pasted from Google. So don't do that. Objective should be something what you wish to achieve in life, right? Probably, and the skills that you wish to gain, and the skills that you wish to gain, right? So objective would be skills, okay, you have and you wish to gain. So connect something. You have and your experience as an example, I will tell you. Objective should be, let's say, a 2 year, something like, let's say, someone with a 2 year experience in the banking and financial services domain would mention that an experienced professional with over 2 years experience in the banking and financial services sector in loan origination, seeking a career, seeking a challenging opportunities in the banking sector, something like that. So it should have your skills you have and your experience. So you should definitely mention the skills that you already possess, your experience, and what you want to achieve. What you want to achieve. Probably you would want to go to the banking sector in the loan origination department. Probably you would want to be a consultant. If you want to be a consultant, let's say in the financial services sector, you can say that a seasoned professional who has cleared NCFM certification in capital markets, seeking challenging opportunities in the consulting domain in the banking and financial services sector, something like that. So skills you have, your experience, and what you want to achieve should come in the objective section. Having said about the objective section, second could be the personal details. Personal details. Correct? Personal details could include your year of birth. Okay, should include your details about you, your year of birth, state from where you come from, and probably your name, right? Name, year of birth, and state, I think, and the place from where you come from. That should suffice in the personal details section. Third would be your educational qualifications. Okay, this is again something which is very important. Educational qualifications, again, I would say, from most recent, starting from most, right? So you might want to mention that you're a mechanical engineer, year of passing, and the marks. Okay. So basically, I would say subject or the degree, mechanical engineer. Okay. Year of passing. Then you might want to mention the university or the college, and then you want to mention your marks. This would come under educational qualifications. Once your educational qualifications are done, if you have any internships, okay, internships or projects that you have worked on, projects could be any short-term projects could be your final year projects. All these details need to be mentioned here in this section. So internships, projects, etc. Specifically, if you have less than 2 years of work experience, this section is very important. Internships and projects, because it tells you that at least you have some corporate exposure rather than saying zero corporate exposure. If someone tells you you do not have any work experience, you can always tell them you have worked on a lot of projects, a lot of internships, and you know what? You have gained a lot, and you can tell them in details about the projects and the internships that you have worked on. When you talk about the internships and projects, do not get into the technicalities of the projects. Rather, your focus should be on what was the project all about and what did it achieve and what was your role in it. Okay. So, what was the project about? What was the project? So, a very brief description. Probably you were designing a solar screen. Probably you were designing a robot, right? You are an electronics engineer, you were developing a robot. So what was the project? Okay, benefit that it derived. Remember, Everything that you do should derive some benefit. Probably you developed a robot, and you know what? The robot is able to follow human instructions, because of which certain manual tasks can be done faster, which results in saving of, let's say, two men days, some benefit that you derive out of the project. Third is if it was a pilot implementation, and can it be taken up further? Pilot implementation, when I mean by pilot implementation, basically, was it a test implementation? Probably you tested it at the college level, and now you want to develop it further. You are trying for sponsorships, because at the end of the day, if you tell them your project was too good, they will ask you, did you get funding to extend the project? If no, did you try for it? And then they would say that, why did you let go of such a brilliant idea? So if anything is very brilliant, try to tell them that you actually tried developing it on a larger scale. You approached a few companies, and probably the COVID came in, created havoc, and then companies were not ready to fund you, something like that. But definitely tell them about it. If they find it interesting, they're gonna ask you more questions on your internships and projects. Okay. Next, what would be the next area? Okay, you know what? Would be after internships, the next area would be work experience. Work experience. Again, work experience starting from latest. Put it in bullet points. What have you worked on? If you have worked in multiple companies, then latest company first. Okay. Tell them which project you work on. Again, not the technicalities. What is your individual contribution in it? And if required, you can also connect why MBA out here. Why MBA out here? Why MBA? Even if you talk about your internship, right? You yourself can talk about why MBA. Probably today you work in an IT industry and you are a developer. You code in Java language. But you know what? You are also interested to learn what is the overall impact of your code on the client, right? Probably you work in a banking and financial services sector. You are designing a screen. You want to understand more who are the users who will be using the screen. What will happen if your project is not delivered on time? When you design the screen, probably the color of the screen should adhere to some regulation. Probably when you design your screen, you say that there are some security features. Why? Because those security features are required for auditing. Why is that audit required on every screen? These are big things. These are things probably you would want to understand more and deep dive. You'd want to speak to the customer, understand their needs, and you believe that an MBA would aid and help in your work experience, right? So very, 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 very important that you connect your work experience or internship to the question of why MBA. So why MBA? I think it is very easy to answer. You should consider where you stand currently. You stand now. Okay, you should consider this. Think about it. Where you stand now and what are your goals in future? Your goals in future. Probably you would want to be the manager, okay, of what, of, let's say, an operation based company in India, of an operation based company, let's say a company like let's say like Walmart. Your goals in future. Okay, simple. Where you stand now and your goals in future. And then you must be able to tell them that, you know what, MBA will teach you skills. MBA will be the bridge. MBA teaches skills. Okay, teaches skills, so that you can transform and move from where you stand now to where your goals are. Simple. Where I stand now, what do I want to achieve in future? And then use the MBA as a bridge. That MBA, you know what, would teach me networking, would teach me what are the qualities of a leader, would teach me financial analysis, would teach me how to analyze the balance sheet, would teach me about the macroeconomic conditions of the country, would teach me about consumer behavior, would teach me marketing, would teach me sales, And you know what? My goals in future requires all these skills. And that is why I believe that if I do an MBA, it would help and aid, okay, help and aid in making me a better professional, both at a personal level and the professional level. Something like that. You got to create a story. Correct? Fine. Once your work experience has been taken care of, once your work experience has been taken care of, the next point that you can mention is your achievements. Your achievements. When I say achievements, it could be both academic achievements and extracurricular achievements. Academic achievements and extracurricular achievements, right? Academic achievements could be you have been a gold medalist in your graduation, in your engineering, or probably you know what, you are a mechanical engineer and you design an electric vehicle which was funded by the college and actually presented at the state level. Something like that could be an achievement. Or you were the captain of the cricket team of your college and you led your team to four consecutive victories, or to victories in every year of your college life, which should show that you have leadership skills, right? Probably you are a debater, you have won many debates, or probably you dance very well and you have won several prizes. All of these achievements must be put in a bullet form and written down in your resume. Just in case you have no achievements, could be a case there are not too many achievements, you can mention that you actively participated. That's another word that you can use, right? Actively participated in paper presentation in a national level fest on the topic so on. So actively participated, or probably amongst the finalists, right? You can always tell them you are among the last five, among the finalists, because anyway, if you're not in the top three, you might not get a certificate. So you can tell them you are the finalist of the IIT Bombay mock parliament debate competition, something like that. You should mention in your resume. If you have not won, fine. You can also mention you are among the top five or you actively participated in some competition. So if people have queries, I see some people typing in the live comments. You can post it and I'm going to answer your queries. Okay. If you have any specific queries, just type. Next, once your achievements are done, the next thing that you would want to talk about, after your achievements, you know what, are your hobbies and interests. Are your hobbies and interests. Hobbies and interests. Hobbies and interests. So here you can mention what are your hobbies. Okay. When you say hobbies, it would be great if you can tell them there has been instances in the past where you actually won prizes because of your hobby. Probably you dance very well, so you participate in a lot of dance programs, or you cook very well, and because of your cooking, you know what, you have developed an interest in bodybuilding, going to the gym, or probably reading books. So whatever is your hobby, mention two hobbies. I think two is enough. Two max three. Two or three hobbies. Two or three. I mean, if you have one hobby, just mention one. But if you have two or three hobbies, just mention two or three hobbies in bullet points. Fine. So it could be hobbies like playing cricket. I think that is enough. Playing cricket. Reading fictions. Yes, something like that. See, remember, you don't have to write the entire thing. Just mention what are the hobbies, and if the interview panel is interested, they themselves are going to ask you more about it. You play cricket, tell me what is the radius of the round circle. Remember, what is the radius, or probably what is the length of the pitch, what is the height of a wicket. Okay, is there any maximum weight of the cricket bat that a player can use? Correct. They might ask you, who is your favorite cricket player? Do you know some of the recent controversies that he has been involved in? Do you know some of his statistics? Could be anything, right? If you say reading fictions, who is your favorite author? What is he famous for? Which are the last two fictions that you have read? What was the moral of the story? What was the moral? Was there any moral? Did you like the way the author writes the fiction, or do you think it could have been improved? Lot of topics, lot of questions can be asked based on your hobbies and interests, right? And then So you have mentioned everything. I think you have mentioned hobbies and you have mentioned your interests, and achievements have also been done. Achievements have also been done. I think that should suffice. That should suffice. If there is something more that you wish to add, you can always add. Remember, the point here is it should not exceed 1 or 2 pages. It should not exceed 1 or 2 pages. 1 or 2 pages. So max to max 2 pages or minimum 1 page. I would say 1 page is ideal for a resume. 1 page is ideal for a resume. Fine. So I think I've talked about a lot of things today. I've talked about a lot of things today, and it's just that you got to work on it and improve. Remember, resume writing, preparing your resume should take time. It will take days. Resume writing takes days. Resume writing takes days if done properly. Takes days if done properly. You got to think every word you put in the resume. It takes days. You got to think about every word that you put in the resume, because remember, 99.9% of your interview will be based on what you write in the resume. Will be based, okay, on your resume. Will be based on your resume. Hence, it is essential that you prepare it diligently, you prepare it with a lot of time in hand, and before the results are out, be clear of, be very prepared with the resume. Otherwise, a lot of time would be consumed preparing the resume, while the ideal way would have been you should have been preparing for the interview, reading up a lot of things, reading up a lot of other things, right? So remember, this is very important, resume writing, and that's something you should focus on straight away and be prepared before the results are out. I think that is it. I think that is it. I do not have much more to tell. I do not have much more to tell. That is it. And yes, a few announcements. You can enroll on Unacademy Plus. A lot of new batches are starting. If you're a CAT 2022 or OMAT 2022 aspirant, the prices are there on your screen. On these prices, whatever plan you choose, you need discounts. Remember, the maximum discount code is there on your screen, Parikshit Live. Also, if you use this discount code, you will get free mentorship from my side. Yeah, you heard it correct. Free mentorship is available only and only on my code Parikshit Live, and mentorship from my side. Iconic subscription is also available for those of you who are interested. And yeah, a lot of benefits on Iconic: one-to-one doubt clearing sessions, concept discussions, and live mentorship by top B school graduates. And all of these can happen at the timing of your choice. Exciting offers running now. You get 2 months free on joining Unacademy Plus, either with a 12-month subscription or 24-month subscription. So you join us for 12 months and we will give you 2 months absolutely free. And remember, you will get discounts as well if you use my code Parikshit Live. ZAT evaluation is also happening. Do join. This is absolutely free. You can use my code Parikshit Live to access it for free. And yeah, ZAT decision making special happening the 25th of December, 12 p.m. Don't miss out. And anytime you have doubts, make use of the Ask a Doubt feature on Unacademy. That is it. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'm going to see you in my next session. Till then, goodbye and